Hi, everyone. This is Tim Sanders, president of mathleague.org. I want to wish you a very happy new year and take this opportunity as we start 2021 to give you an update on what's going on in Math League and what to expect over the next few months. I've decided to do that in the form of a bullet point list of core values that we adhere to. A lot of people have asked me over the years, what does Math League stand for? What do you, what's your mission statement? And there are definitely a few specific values that shape what we do and why we do them. And I want to share a few of those with you as I use that as a platform to announce some of the things that you need to know about coming up over the next few months. Before I get into that, though, I want to issue a sincere and heartfelt thank you to all of you who have stood by us and continued to support our contests, particularly over these last few months as we drastically changed the look and feel of what we do, but strove to maintain the essence of our contests. Obviously, back in March, every math contest in the world was faced with some decisions about what to do. Unlike most of the other math contests that simply shut down operations, we decided to fulfill our commitments to our students and make sure that we had a platform that would enable us to continue our operations despite not being able to meet in person and continue to allow students to participate in state, national, and even international championships for which they qualified. Once we rolled out our online contest system, the response was overwhelming. And I know we picked up students from other math contests that had folded by that point, but what we really appreciate is the commitment and loyalty from those of you who have come to expect nothing less than a high quality math contest experience from us, regardless of the platform that we use. We have worked very hard over the last 20 years to earn your trust. In turn, you all came through spectacularly by supporting us in greater numbers than we could possibly have expected. And I want you to know that the support that you all provided, particularly in the first couple of months of the pandemic, saved over 20 jobs at mathleague.org, and we are eternally grateful to all of you for putting your faith in us and supporting us as we move to our online system. And we hope that we have made that effort worth your while as we've continued to improve our contest system and provide as many opportunities as we can to your students. All right, let's take a look at our core values. First core value is content. What good is a math contest if you don't have high quality problems that have been thoroughly vetted and that have proper solutions that your students can learn from? As you know, of course, we provide answers and solutions to the tests after each release cycle is over. These are available to every student who participated in the contest, and we definitely encourage students to use those to learn something from the test. I do want to point out, jumping ahead to the difficulty levels thing here, that one of the things that we do after each test cycle is over is we take a look at the item data. How many students got each question correct? And we did find out this year, our third round of the middle school contest, we dropped the ball on the difficulty. And I will take responsibility for that. And a few of you pointed that out to us in the survey form that you sent, that you filled out after the contest was over. I want you to know, by the way, we read all those surveys, and we want to be very responsive to your needs and your concerns. And I looked at the data. I realized that, yep, this was in fact an inordinately difficult contest, and we took immediate steps to fix that. And I hope that you all will agree with me that the next month of contests returned to a more appropriate difficulty level. It is a little bit of a challenge creating these math contests. Obviously we have to make, with as wide a scope as we have, students from all over the world taking these tests, we have to have a pretty big learning curve on the test, gradient of difficulty, if you will. Plus, one of our goals is to make sure that everybody gets something right on the test so that they don't go home feeling like they didn't accomplish anything. But we also want to make sure everybody gets something wrong because if you come to our contest and you don't miss any questions, then you don't have an opportunity to learn anything from the questions that you just completed. So we try to balance the difficulty levels. And like I said, most of the time we do I feel like our team does a fantastic job of it, but I did talk to them after that middle school round that I mentioned, and we're working hard on making sure that that we keep an eye on those difficulty levels moving forward. So thanks to those of you who brought up that concern and gave us an opportunity to fix that. Next up is our YouTube channel. This is it. Welcome to the YouTube channel. This is our first video that we've posted. But the idea here is we want to advance our core value of content, not just by making sure that we adhere to the most rigorous mathematical standards in our test material, but that we also provide as many learning opportunities as we can for students. And our YouTube channel is going to primarily be a vehicle for distributing content. We have interns who are going to be making videos on a regular basis and posting those to the channel, explaining how to do some of the problems that you've seen on recent contests. So we hope you'll check that out and that your students will learn something from those videos. Next up is forums. So you all know that we have some pretty strict copyright regulations on our tests. That's necessary, of course, in order to make sure that we can continue to generate revenue from sales of past tests. This is actually what we use to pay the test writers who are going to be writing the future tests. So, so we do try to keep people from, just giving away our contest problems for free, but we do want to make sure that students have an opportunity to talk about these problems. Now, one of the things that's one of the things that students haven't been able to do as much since we stopped running in-person contests because there's just not that opportunity to interact at contests. So one of the things that we have done at this point then is we are opening up our forum, or the Math League forum on the Art of Problem Solving website for students to discuss problems from previous years on our test. Obviously, we want to continue to keep students from discussing online the current year's tests. That's just a test security issue. But we are relaxing our restrictions on being able to talk about problems from previous years. We do want students to use this particular forum on the AoPS website to discuss the problems. So if you see anybody discussing our problems on a different forum, direct them to the appropriate place. There are a couple reasons why we want to do that. Number one is because our staff is going to be monitoring that forum so that we can jump into the discussion if we see that somebody is maybe showing a way to do the problem that is not necessarily a good way to do it, or something like that. But we also want to generate a critical mass of people participating in our forum. And by directing all of the conversation about our problems to one central location, we hope that will kickstart broader conversations within that forum as well and give students a chance to interact with each other. So this is an opportunity to share content, but it also leads to our second core value, which is the social aspect of our contest. It has always been a very important part of what we do to make sure that students have opportunities to meet each other, to interact with like-minded students. And over the years, many of you have told me that this is one of your favorite things about our math contest, is the fact that we run these contests where students are there at the same time, able to talk to each other, able to make friends, learn something from each other. And in fact, that is how a lot of us on the Math League staff met each other, was at contests, So yeah, definitely something that's close to our heart as well. Now, obviously, this is a lot more difficult in a situation where we're meeting online instead of in person. But now that we've gotten to a point where our online contest system is pretty stable, we've kind of figured that part out, I think it's time for us to move on to, figuring out what we can do to advance our core value of social interaction a little bit more. So to that end, we are working on a plan right now, starting with our upcoming contest, where we will have a dedicated opportunity for students to chat to each other. We have been locking down the chat throughout the entire contest up to this point. And we are still going to have to lock down the chat during certain times. Obviously, students can't chat during the test, for instance. But we're planning to start having designated times where students can chat with each other so that they can have a little bit more social interaction. We're also taking a look at our in-contest activities. Obviously, we have a countdown round that is very interactive for the students participating in the countdown round. But we want to take a look at what other activities we can include in our contest. So we'll be kind of rolling out a few of those and providing additional opportunities for students to interact during the contest with specific activities as well. Another social aspect that has kind of become more difficult during the pandemic is sharing materials. Right. So our copyright notice on our test has always indicated that if you either receive a contest from having come to one of our contests, or if you purchased a contest set, that you're able to make a paper copy and share that with people in your school. Well, that kind of made sense up until the point when people weren't able to go out and visit each other and, pass papers back and forth. So what we're doing at this point, and this will be throughout the entire calendar year of 2021, and we may extend it longer if necessary, is we're relaxing restrictions on PDF sharing. So if, for instance, you received a PDF of a contest set directly from us and that you are allowed to share with your school, you're no longer required to share it only in paper form. You may now share it in an electronic form with people. The details of that are on our website under the health alert that's at the top of every page. So just click on the health alert. We've updated that today with the latest and full details about this. The bottom line is this is not a free license to just, post our tests everywhere and give them away for free, but rather it is an opportunity for you to do what you've always been able to do by sharing tests within your school, only we've made it less difficult to do that. And allowing you to share them electronically at this point so that you don't have to hand papers back and forth. All right. The next core value is inclusivity and sensitivity, right? This kind of boils down to caring about and respecting our students and members of our community. Inclusivity, of course, the big one that you all know about is the fact that everybody can participate in our contest, right? We don't allow schools to tell students that they can't participate, right? And most of you don't even know what I'm talking about, which is wonderful, right? But for that small percentage of you who have schools who have tried to keep you from competing in our contest, you know how much we believe in inclusivity. Right. You know that we have several times gone to bat for individual students. We have stood up against your schools who have tried to keep you from coming to contest. I have no idea why a school would try to keep you from going to a math contest. You have no idea why either. But what I can tell you is that it's none of their business. Right? Whether you want to come to our math contest is between you and us. And our promise to you is that we will never, ever let a school stand in the way. We will never let a school tell us what to do when it comes to us providing opportunities for your students. A couple of other things that we do, though, to promote inclusivity and sensitivity. Student data. We're collecting a couple of additional points of student data at this point. These are both optional. The first one is gender. So on our registration forms, you'll notice that we now have a box where you can select a student's gender if you choose. Again, it is completely optional, and the wording on the form indicates that that this information will never be shared with anybody in any personally identifiable way. It's for our own internal record keeping and for the possibility of reporting aggregate data. What does our gender representation look like, by grade or by state or whatever. So your own gender will never be attached to your name in any of our publicly available results or anything like that. We're mainly just doing this as an experiment to see what we can find out about how well we're serving various segments of society. So feel free to help us with that data collection if you like, but again, it's totally optional. The next optional field is the pronunciation field for your students' names. So first off, our registration form now makes it specifically clear that you can register under whatever spelling of your name that you use in everyday life. Right. So for instance, and this is particularly relevant to students outside the US, if you typically write your name in a Cyrillic script or in Chinese characters or in anything like that, you can register your name. You can register yourself for the contest under that name. The pronunciation field then is basically a chance for you to write it alphabetically so that our English-speaking staff know how to pronounce your name. For instance, if we need to announce your name at an awards ceremony or something like that, right? So if you are using a script other than the Latin alphabet, we prefer that you include a Latinized pronunciation of your name. But it's also available for students who, if you're afraid that our staff might mispronounce your name when it comes time to announce awards, the pronunciation field is an option there for you to give us some guidance as far as how to pronounce your name. All right, ID numbers. This is another thing as far as respect for our students. It's a privacy issue, right? So some of you may remember that in the past, we provided ID numbers and student names for all of the students in a school, and we sent that to all the people who registered from the school, right? So everybody from your school everybody knew who all else was registered from your school. The problem with that is, I really hate to have to say this, but we actually found evidence this fall of people stealing the identities of students from their own school. Who does that, right? But it happened. So anyway, we're moving to a new system now. Now you're getting your ID number the moment you register for a contest instead of 2 days before the contest itself. So it will still be the case that sponsors for a school, right? So every school has one designated contact person for mathleague.org that's officially called the sponsor for the school. That person will be able to access the names and ID numbers of the students in their school. All right, so sponsors of schools, you may contact us for that information. These are typically going to be teachers or coaches who are in charge of the whole team. So you may need that information to organize who's on what teams or whatever. Just send us an email if you need that from your whole school. But we're no longer providing that information to just anybody because we want to protect the students' privacy, and it's a fraud prevention thing too. Anyway, that kind of leads us to our next core value, test security. Right? Another fraud prevention measure we've recently instituted is the requirement to register your student's name, ID number, and email address before you enter a Zoom meeting. This allows us to keep records of who's actually in the meeting, including what time they entered and exited the meeting. So this is basically another fraud prevention measure, along with protecting the ID numbers, like I said in the previous bullet point. The other big thing about test security, and again, this is something that the vast majority of you have come to rely on us because you know that we have an intense commitment to test security. I'm sure that for a lot of you, one of the things that you really appreciate about our system is our commitment to test security. Making sure that the test results are valid, making sure that that no funny business is going on before, during, or after the test. And let me say, 99.9% of you all are following the rules. You're doing this right, and we appreciate that. But unfortunately, I have to report to you that we have had a handful of incidents this fall of people, I guess the best word is to say they're people who are bullying us into trying to break our rules so that they can get an unfair advantage. I'm talking specifically people who are like, oh, I showed up to the contest late. Can I just take the test again tomorrow? My students submitted wrong answers. Now that it's 12 hours after the contest, can I submit this other paper that is their real answers? We have had a handful of people who just won't back down this fall. They've tried to bully us into changing our rules, accepting late papers, basically violating your rights, violating the rights of you, the 99.9% who are doing things the right way and following the rules and relying on us to follow the rules as well. And for those of you who are doing it right, I will reiterate our commitment that we will never, ever allow ourselves to be bullied into changing our rules or giving someone an unfair advantage. All right, so test validity, that kind of leads into the transparency of our results and the scores and the qualifications and that sort of thing too. It's very important to us that our results are correct and that everybody can see the results publicly posted. You know, we want to be as transparent as possible so that there's no hint of any impropriety at all. But you know, we have actually gotten again, it's just a handful. 99.9% of you are doing this right, but we have received a handful of people this fall who have essentially tried to bully us into changing somebody's score after the fact or changing somebody's qualification status. Now, let me be clear. If we make a mistake, we will always correct it. That is our commitment to transparency. But if you make a mistake, you can't come to us 3 days or 3 weeks after the contest is over and expect to be able to get a second chance at a contest that nobody else got a second chance at. That's just common sense, right? So yeah, I mean, again, those of you who are doing it right, you can count on us to make sure that your rights are protected and that we're not giving any unfair advantages to other people. Biggest misunderstandings we have about qualification just involve a failure to understand that there are multiple ways to qualify, right? So if you're looking at a list of, you know, if you are looking at a list of number sense results, right? You're here, somebody who qualified is down here. How could somebody qualify when they scored lower than me on number sense? Well, it's because they didn't qualify in number sense. They qualified on like maybe the target round or something, right? And so, you know, but you're looking at the number sense list. That's not the thing they qualified on. And so that's why, you know, it might look a little weird, but you just have to understand, because there are so many ways to qualify, then inevitably there's going to be some way that you can sort the results where you're not going to have all the qualifiers at the top of that particular result and all the non-qualifiers below them. So just understand that and, you know, read the rules for qualifying, and that clears up a lot of it. So we made a subtle change this year in our qualification rules. Well, most of you probably didn't even notice it. But basically, you know, ever since Math League started, we've always had a rule that if you get 50% of the possible points on any test, anytime during the year, you qualify to the next level. That hasn't changed. A few years ago, several years ago at this point, we added this thing where if you place in the 80th percentile of a contest, then you qualify onto the next level. Well, the way that rule was specifically written in the past, it was actually a little bit more, it actually counted fewer people than we wanted it to. Right? I mean, there's nothing wrong with the rule, and there was nothing wrong about how we calculated the results of the rule. It's just that the way the rule is written gave us weird situations where sometimes, for instance, if there were less than 5 people competing in a grade level, that nobody ended up qualifying for state, right? Let me give you an example. Right? It's 4 people in a grade level. If you have to outscore 80% of them, then 80% of 4 is 3.2, which means you have to score higher than 3.2 people. Well, the person who placed first outscores 3 people, but not 3.2 people. So in other words, it is literally impossible under the rules as they were previously written to outscore 80% of the competition, or to outscore 80% of the competitors if you were, if there were only 4 people in your grade, for instance. The subtle change that we made this year was we changed the denominator. We took you out of the mix so that now you only have to outscore 80% of the other students. 4 students in a grade, that means there's 3 other students. 80% of 3 is 2.4. You just have to outscore 2.4 of those. So the person who was first place outscored 3, so yes, they outscored more than 2.4 of the students, and they would qualify. The net effect of this is now that regardless of how few people there are in a grade level, if you are standing alone at first place in your grade level for any event, then you will qualify to the next level. And so what that ultimately does is it results in a lot more students qualifying for state this year. So you're welcome. Now, that leads us to our next core value about recognizing students, right? We recognize our students by offering them a chance to compete at a state championship, for instance. We also recognize them in other ways as well, right? I mean, every student that participates in our contest gets an opportunity to download a participation certificate for that contest. And then we also give prizes to certain students who do well enough. Now, for our online contests, we started off by giving electronic books, right? We're like, hey, what can we do instead of, for one thing, our trophy shop closed for a few months. So, we literally could not send out trophies when we first started doing these contests online. So we were giving out electronic books, right? Something that we didn't have to physically deliver at all. They could, and over time we expanded that. When our trophy shop opened back up, then we even offered trophies as an option as well. Now we've got a pretty good list of things that you can get as prizes. You can get a free registration to the Aftermath for one of our contests. You can get a free contest problem set. You can donate free contest entries to students in Africa. We do have the trophy available for students who are in the top 5 in their grade. So lots of different options. So that's one of the things that we actually have continued to do. We even just within the last few weeks, I think we added 1 or 2 more options here. So if you haven't looked at it recently, go check out the prize list, mathleague.org/bookprize.php. That's also linked from the main page where we discuss all of our policies for online contests. Take a look at that, see all the options that are there. That's the trade-off is, we're not in a position where we can physically hand you a trophy the day of the contest anymore. So instead we're like, okay, well, here's a list, pick from a bunch of different options and whichever one you want. And so we hope that you feel that's an adequate trade-off for not being able to give you your prizes instantaneously. Someday we'll be back to where we can do that. But for now, so that's what we've got going on. I do want to mention, of course, if you win a prize, most of the time winning a prize is basically the same as qualifying for the next level, right? So you qualify for the next level, you get to pick a prize. Please go ahead and pick those right away, right? We do have a 2-week deadline on that. We've granted some exceptions when people are like a day or 2 past the deadline, but we do have to close the books out on these things, at some point. That's just good accounting practices. So we have to have a definite cutoff. If you win a prize, please don't wait. Just go ahead and claim it, rather than contacting us 3 months later and being like, oops. By that point, we've already closed out the records on the contest. Anyway, we've added a couple of other things, right? We want to recognize not only the students who score the highest in our contest, but we just, we want to spread the wealth around a little bit. We've got a couple of extra things that we just started this month. First is a prize drawing for every contest that our staff runs online in rounds 5 and 6 this year. That's basically from mid-January to mid-March. We're going to be giving out a prize for every 100 students who show up in a Zoom meeting. So basically, there's 320 students showing up in one of our meetings. We'll give out 3 prizes. These prizes are going to be given out after the team round is over. You have to be present to win. But basically just a random drawing. So, anybody could win a prize, even if you're not, even if you don't quite get enough points to qualify for the next level. The prizes for that are going to be a free number sense challenge, a free book from our website, or a $25 gift card. So hopefully that'll give more students an opportunity to get some sort of a prize from our contest. We are also offering an incentive to teachers, coaches. The primary sponsor from a school will be eligible for the same prizes we just mentioned if your school brings a total of 50 student registrations into our system throughout the entire qualifying season. So this will be retroactive from September all the way up through the end of the qualifying season in March. If you add up all of the registrations that your students made for our contests in that year, and it is more than 50 students, you'll get to pick one of those 3 prizes I just mentioned as well. All right. So the final core value I wanted to mention is opportunity. All right. So we I mentioned a little bit about this in the inclusivity section. Our goal is to provide opportunities for any student who wants to compete in math contests. To that end, we have done a couple of specific things to make things easier for everybody at this point, since we're still not ready to move back to in-person contests. You may have already noticed that all of our qualifying round contests have been posted up through the middle of March, and those are all going to be held online. Not only that, but every student will have an opportunity to choose between 2 different dates to take the test. So there is a date where your specific state is assigned to take these tests, but then at the end of each release cycle, there is also what we call an open enrollment contest. So that basically provides extra opportunities for students to take the test, hopefully avoiding schedule conflicts that way. Every month, basically, students have a choice of 2 different dates to sign up for the qualifying test. In addition to that, we've also found out that, some students are having difficulty participating in our online contest because of internet connection issues. And I just want to tell you, I've heard some stories. I've had families in rural Missouri contact me and tell me, hey, we drove our kids into town so we could sit in the car outside of McDonald's and grab the free Wi-Fi just so they could participate in the contest because the internet doesn't reach out to our home in the woods. And let me just say, I admire the dedication of those students and those parents who help them do that. You are absolute heroes. That's awesome. And I will tell you, we may ask you to do that again when it comes time for districts and state, just, because we are going to have to make sure that everybody takes the test at the same time. But as far as qualifying, we do have the in-school test available, right? So if you're finding it difficult to participate in our online contests, due to internet connection problems, or if the schedule just doesn't work out or whatever. One of the things that we've been doing for several years is an in-school test opportunity. This is where we will send the test to the sponsors for each school. This is a specific test that we send to the sponsors of each school, and you have a 2-month window to administer this test to students in your school, however and whenever it makes sense to do within that window. So that will be one other opportunity to take a test to qualify for districts or state. Those tests are out at this point, along with instructions for how to take those contests. So all the member schools should have received, sponsors of member schools should have received an email from us at this point with information about how to register your students. Once you register and pay for your students, you get the test along with specific instructions for how to administer the test and submit the answers. So there's that additional opportunity as well. And of course, there's the opportunity to have a postseason championship, whether it's district, state, nationals. As you know, as I mentioned at the beginning, our commitment to you has always been that any state where students have qualified for state, we will hold a state championship. And likewise, we will always hold a national championship for students who score well enough at their state championships. So our team has already chosen dates for the district and state championships. Those will all be online again this year like they were last year. They should all be posted on our website by January 15th. If you've qualified for those, you can go ahead and sign up. We will send reminders out to the sponsors for each school that has students qualified as we get a little bit closer to those dates. But again, we're all about providing these opportunities. And in particular, we are well aware that for the second year in a row, we are going to be the only math contest in the country that is providing a state and national championship for school teams in every state at every grade and at every age level. So, as always, we thank you for your support of us in the endeavor to provide those opportunities, and we thank you for the chance to hold these contests and to be able to recognize your students. So for right now, like I said, the district and state championships have been scheduled for online. The national championships, we are going to be waiting a couple months to make a decision on those, but we hope to have a definitive answer before the state meets happen, so that by the time you're done with state and you know that you've qualified for nationals, then you'll also know when and where the nationals are going to be and whether it's going to be in person or online. So to that end, I'm going to ask all of you to please stay safe, stay healthy, do what you can to stop the spread of this virus so that we can get back to holding in-person contests as soon as possible. We don't know whether that'll be by the time of nationals this year or whether it'll be sometime next school year or how long it'll be. But as you've come to learn from us over the years, we're committed to seeing this through. We're going to do whatever it takes to make sure that your students have opportunities to continue competing, and we will do that online as long as it takes. And when the time's right, we'll move them back in person as well. Folks, thanks for listening to this, and we look forward to seeing you at our upcoming contests. Again, Happy New Year. Thanks for your support, and we'll see you later.